Hello and welcome to Twisted Britain, a podcast on true crime in Britain with a sprinkling of the weird and the macabre. And your hosts are me, Bob Dale.
And me, Nadine Royal. We're a couple of friends who met in the pub and developed a friendship based on our mutual love of booze, podcasts and pub quizzes. We met in the Settle Inn in Stirling, and that's where we record.
Each week we'll both tell a story of something twisted, one long one and one short one, and we'll decide who goes first.
Based on the flip of a coin.
And we'll start off with sorry.
Sorry. Sorry.
We're very, very sorry that the episode didn't come out in time.
For once, it's not really our fault.
Had our memory card failed that we record onto, and I'd like to just apologise. We don't know what happened, so we're having to re-record. The upside of re-recording this week, however, is we get to sit in the pub and it's actually quite warm.
Thank God.
We recorded last night as well so that we could catch up with our Patreon records, and we sat in the cellar and the two of us looked like we were, going to die.
You were tucked up like a little granny, drinking her tea in front of the telly.
Somebody would find us in 100 years with podcast equipment and just two frozen beings in a cellar. We'll start off with, sorry about that, but we hope that this makes up for it.
Yeah, hope so.
And it means that it's not that long till the next episode.
It's really not that long. We're going to have to work our butts off.
I'm going to have to edit 3 podcasts in about 5 days, but never mind. We're fine.
Yay.
It's fine, though. It'll be okay.
What have you been doing anyway?
Re-recording podcasts, mainly what we've been doing.
That's really funny. So have I. Small world.
No, I was away at the weekend. I was in a place called Loch Allen.
Beautiful.
Which is on the Ardnamurchan Peninsula.
Oh, that was lovely.
Thank you very much. And it's only 72 miles from here. Took 4 and a bit hours to get there.
Wowee.
Fucking
rural, huh?
Really miles away. Yeah. Saw a sea otter though.
Yes.
I was telling you about this yesterday. And it was cool. And if you ask Isaac what the sea otter did, it swam over to say bye bye.
That's adorable. Swam over to say bye. Yeah, like, very polite.
You guys are shite. I'm off.
Bye.
We did that, and we went for a play in the woods, and I did a pub quiz for everyone, and
lovely. Got
incredibly drunk.
How was your pub quiz? How did it go?
Oh, it was really good.
Received well?
Yeah, it was. I'll show you a copy of it later on.
Nice.
You can see what you think. But yeah, went down well. We had some winners, we had some losers.
That's how games work.
I drank all the way through it, so don't really remember the end of it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
What you been up to?
Just working, really, to be honest. Working. Yeah, actually, that's a lie, actually. I had a 3-day weekend. I was
going to say, you were pissed yesterday when I saw you.
That's why I'm confused. Yeah, just been drinking all weekend, to be honest. Been quite lovely. 3-day weekend for no good reason, so why not get pissed? Hung out with my brother a bit, that was nice. Hung out with some friends, that was also nice. Drank a lot, very nice.
So anybody that's listening to this, that listens to the Patreon episode that'll come out about the same time, it's her that's slurring, not me.
Yeah, I was a bit giddy last night, wasn't I? I got a bit odd.
You got a bit odd. Before we start, though, I'd like to say a quick shout out to Jess and Caroline, 2 of our listeners who came up and had a wee holiday in Stirling.
Yes.
And made a point of coming in to settle in, which is something we love. Not only does it keep Leslie happy because other folk are in paying for drinks, but it was cool. I got to meet them. And
I was really jealous, actually. They seemed really cool.
Yeah, we had a really good night the Friday night. We had some drinks, and then I was like, well, come do the pub quiz with us on Sunday. And they came along, and they're smarter than us.
Excellent. So we need those kind of listeners to come and help our quiz team.
If any of you think you're smarter than us, which I would imagine is about 90%.
Probably most of you.
Come along and do the quiz with us.
Make us look good.
So, yeah, I hope you guys got down the road all right, and thank you very much for coming to see us. If anybody else is ever in Stirling, do just send us a message on
Give us a little shout, yeah.
Any of the social medias, which we'll tell you how to find later on, and we'll endeavour to do our best to come and say hello.
I know, I've missed all of our visitors so far, but it's a bit difficult living in Glasgow.
Yeah, difficult.
Especially when I work a lot.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if I can, I shall come through because one, I'd love to meet you, and 2, I love an excuse to have a drink.
To go to the pub, yeah. I'm like 10 minutes away, so I'll be here. So yeah, I think that's about me, really.
How has your research been?
Ages ago.
Yeah.
Nah, it wasn't. It's one of. I don't mind telling this one again.
This is a good one. I like this one
because I quite like the story. It was the same last night when we were re-recording the Patreon episode. I didn't mind doing that one either because it was one I quite enjoyed telling as well.
Yeah, I like that one too.
So, although it's been a bit of a bugger, It's all right because we get to sit in the pub and...
I also felt super organised before I left the house tonight. I was like...
Because you weren't writing it on the way out the door.
I was like, I came in from work and I get in like about 5, just after 5. And I was like, do I have to leave until like 8:30? What am I going to do? I watched an entire movie.
Oh, wow. What'd you watch?
Oh, what did I watch? Oh, trash. Absolute trash.
Good.
It's that film... You won't have seen it. It's called Bad Moms.
No.
It's like Mila Kunis and that. Comedy.
I mean, if Mila Kunis is in it, I might go and watch it, though.
She's also V-Funny. But this was not even the original Bad Moms.
Did you just say V-Funny?
V-Funny. And this was Mila Kunis in Bad Moms, but the Christmas one. I've forgotten what it's called. Bad Moms, a Christmas special. Bad Moms, Christmas Bad Moms. I don't know. But whatever it was.
It will be one of the above.
It was very funny. So I watched that, ate some dinner, and I had a half an hour nap. And then I woke up and was worried that I was meant to have done something for tonight and then realised no, I didn't. So I felt really, really organised.
Already done it.
I might start writing my stories like really in advance.
Maybe we should do that anyway. Because there's been more than one occasion where I finished mine when we got here.
Yeah.
Oh well. I watched the leaders' debate.
Oh.
On ITV.
How did that go?
Honest opinion?
Huh?
The person that was running it was garbage.
Oh.
So, yeah, didn't really learn anything.
I don't watch shit like that.
I know you don't.
It just makes me angry.
Yeah, nah, I was like, it's on, I should watch it.
For those of you that don't know what Bob's currently on about,
sorry,
our country's election is about to come up soon, and the leaders of the two kind of big main political parties were having a television debate. I didn't. I would have been better watching Bad Moms at Christmas. You should have. It was quite delightful. It's very funny.
Anyway, before we rabbit on any further,
shall we?
Yes, let's
flip that shit.
Got a coin. I'm going to make you do it this time.
I did it last night for a special
you did.
treat. I did nail it, if you ask me.
You gonna call?
Yep. Tails, you go first.
It's heads. You're up.
Hello. Oh, shit. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard this story before.
Just last week.
So, today I'm going to talk about the case of Shannon Mathews, which was quite a big British case of recent years.
And some of you will have known that was in the episode because we still put our clues up last week anyway.
Yeah, most people
and
knew.
Before you start, I very much enjoyed the comments on the
they were quite mean.
Mother of the Year award.
Well, so on the 19th of February 2008, Shannon Louise Mathews, who was born on the 9th of September 1998, so that made her 9 years old, she was a little girl who was reported missing on this date in Dewsbury, West Yorkshire, England. The search for her became a major missing person police operation, which was often compared to the disappearance of Madeleine McCann by the press and the public. But what was quite interesting was that they weren't compared as being not in the way that you'd think they'd be compared. So they weren't this is another Madeleine McCann, blah, blah, blah. It was more, there's a lot of comparisons were drawn in the way that the family were seen by the press. And the coverage of her disappearance. Because
we had the beautiful comparisons by the wonderful British press, they were labelled.
Yes. So the McCanns being of upper class.
Well, they were both doctors.
Well, yeah. So they're well off, a wholesome looking kind of family. And they got a lot of press, mostly based, I think, upon that. There's I've watched loads of documentaries discussing why Madeleine McCann shot to.
Whereas in comparison,
the Mathews
would have won in the fight.
Yes.
Between them and the McCanns.
Yes. Working middle class kind of family.
I'd like to see that fight, actually. That'd be really funny.
My money's on Mathews.
Yeah. There's a pay-per-view right there, isn't it? That's $9.99 and you can watch it.
So Shannon went missing on the 19th of February 2008. And she was found on the 14th of March, which was 24 days later. Shannon was last seen at 3:10 in the afternoon on the Tuesday, outside of her school, which was Westmoor Junior School. Before being seen here, Shannon had been to the Dewsbury Sports Centre swimming pool. The school was around half a mile away from her home.
Okay.
So not very far at all.
Very local school.
Mm-hmm. At around 7:10 that evening, her mother, Karen Mathews, rang the police to report her missing after she had not returned home from school. The West Yorkshire Police started a search for the 9-year-old girl, which would eventually involve more than 200 officers.
That's a lot of police.
It is a lot of police. The West Yorkshire Police ended up questioning 1,500 motorists and searching 3,000 houses in the course of the investigation.
Holy shit.
It became a major investigation.
Do you know what's... Now, obviously, I knew about this case before you told me about it last week. But having a bit of foreknowledge is the best way I can think of it about what you're going to tell us. What really sticks in my head about that is the absolute piss of public money that gets used for that.
Yep.
You're literally just pissing it in the wind.
Literally, this case...
Which may sound harsh at this point of the story, but you'll understand. Yeah.
This case in West Yorkshire was the biggest police investigation that had gone on since 30 years previous when they investigated the Yorkshire Ripper. That's how much they put into this.
That's insane.
Trying to find this little girl.
Yeah.
By the 5th of March, which was 15 days after Shannon had gone missing, more than 250 officers and 60 detectives were involved, which was around 10% of West Yorkshire's force's operational strength.
That's incredible.
So many resources were just thrown at this case, and then I'm sure there was there's
probably part of that's probably because of the disappearance of Madeline, because they're going to go, we can't have this happen again.
Yeah, we can't have another one.
Although it obviously didn't happen in the UK, there was still the UK police force that was involved in it over in Portugal, but they're going to go, no, not on my watch.
Yeah, they were even using specialised sniffer dogs and stuff trying to find her. They threw everything they could at it.
I've got a few opinions about them, but we'll get to them later on.
We'll get to them now. I don't bring them up again.
Okay, fine. The police dogs, the cadaver ones, can't be used in court because the dog can't talk. It's probably the simplest way to put it. So they can say there's been acknowledgement of something there. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is my understanding of it anyway.
I think in this circumstance, you're talking about if they find rather than they don't find the person or a body, they find a something. A jacket or a shoe or a something. Yeah,
because I have it in my head that the way they would use them is that kind of almost cartoon version of things where you go...
Sniff this, go.
Yeah, sniff this pair of socks that she wore yesterday.
That is how they do it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they're not so cartoony. But the ones that are very specialist in looking for bodies and evidence of bodies aren't allowed to be used in a court scenario.
I find that really interesting.
Because... And like I say, my understanding of it is anyways because that they can indicate towards something, but then you need to find evidence to follow up to prove the indication.
That proves that evidence is part of your... Yeah, you can't go, well, a dog sniffed this sock, then he sniffed that and barked, so that means it's definitely related.
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Whereas they could probably use them as has she been here? Right, we can use that as stage
now we
one.
Can find something.
Yeah, we can start a route of... investigation from this point.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was just
I think it is terribly interesting, actually. I'd love to see a dog on the stand.
Do you know what it makes me think of is in fact, the podcast that got me into listening to podcasts is This Is Criminal. Mm-hmm. Phoebe Judge has one of the most beautiful voices in podcasting.
We love her.
But one of the episodes was she was with the Canine Unit.
Oh,
and
nice.
It was really interesting. Now, I'm not particularly into animals, certainly not as much as you are, but I like Criminal's format because it's individual bits and pieces all the time, but the Canine Unit one was it was one that sticks in my mind.
I'm trying to remember if that was what I was thinking about there, because I've definitely listened to a podcast episode where they're with the Canine Unit, but I think it was the Someone Knows Something podcast.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think it was on one of those series, in one of those episodes, he was with the specialist kind of Canine Unit searching in a forest, and it was really interesting, what these dogs do.
Yeah.
Really cool.
No, but I just bring up...
They wore little bells, which was quite delightful to listen to, through earphones, this little bell jingling around as they ran around looking. That was quite cool. Yeah.
Sorry, a bit of a digression away from your story there.
No,
but
I don't ever mind.
I know. That's why we keep doing this.
So, one British newspaper offered a reward of £20,000 for information leading to Shannon's safe return.
Have you done the maths?
From 2008. It was increased to £50,000 on the 10th of March, and at this point she'd been missing for 20 days.
And who put that reward up?
One of our favourite tabloids of all time.
Oh, okay.
It's named after a major solar energy kind of thing.
Rhymes
in the
with
sky.
The bum.
Yes. Not the moon, the...
Bum.
A business in Huddersfield.
That's just fucking... Sorry. That's just really fucking terrible that's... They're looking for a story.
Yeah, 50 grand
50
for
grand
the information.
For the information, and don't tell anybody else.
When I was doing my research for this, by far the most hits I get when you look for it is stories by that tabloid.
Well, I mean that...
And they go to fucking town with it.
Sorry.
And I purposely have not included anything I got from any of those.
I did like yesterday on Twitter when I was having a flick through our feed, one of the trending hashtags was boycott the...
Quite right. They are the worst. The only thing I like about that tabloid is they've got at the back this like... what was she called? The Deborah? Can't remember.
Mystic Meg.
No, it's not. But it's like an agony aunt one, and it is phenomenal.
No, it's Dear Deirdre.
Yes, it's Dear Deirdre. That is the highlight of that paper.
Well, it is now.
the people that write into it have some very peculiar issues.
Or just excellent writers.
So a business in Huddersfield also added to this reward. It was a local business that was around 9 miles away from where Shannon lived, and they just wanted to help, They just were quite upset, I think. Well,
Or they wanted the advertising.
Publicity. And they offered £5,000 towards the cause. So that's a reward of £55,000 going for any information that would lead to the safe return of our Shannon Mathews.
Okay.
On the 7th of March, Karen, the mother, said on a morning chat and news show, which is a good one, that she was certain that her 22-year-old boyfriend, Craig Meehan, was not involved in the kidnapping and that she didn't think he was capable of hurting anyone.
Did she just come out the blue and say that?
I think they were like kind of
leading
questioning
towards it.
her, like, oh, well, like, have your family and friends been investigated?
Okay,
like,
it wasn't just like a...
No, my boyfriend definitely didn't do it.
Had nothing to do... Sorry, we haven't even started interviewing you yet.
The cameras aren't rolling, calm down.
She turned up with it wasn't Craig Meehan t-shirt on.
He's at the side looking at her threateningly. Karen Mathews and Craig Meehan were then questioned about some suggestions that had been made by Karen's own parents that Meehan had been violent towards Shannon, and they were questioned about this while they were on a radio interview show.
Okay, so that probably leads into what I was asking. There's probably some kind of background there.
There's stuff coming out about it. So I think, it's like your parents have said that Craig Meehan's been abusive towards you and Shannon in the past. Do you think he, is he involved? In the same interview, they were questioned about the fact that Karen has 7 children by at least 5 fathers, because 2 of the children, she's not sure who their fathers are.
She's a lovely woman.
Isn't she? But, this is what I mean, is, the McCanns didn't have questioning like this, not the start. You know?
She knew where all her children came from. Didn't
know where they went, though. that was in poor taste.
Maybe she did. No, I don't even believe that, so I don't know why I said that.
Controversy. But, this is what I mean, though. This is after, she was only gone for 24 days. So the fact that they were already bringing up, her kind of, her morals and who she is as a person, when she's meant to be this distraught mother who's lost a child, for Christ's sake, I just think that's in very poor taste. To be questioning somebody who's pretty much a victim, with those kind of questions. So I just thought it was in pure taste, really, that you'd go after a victim's kind of their personal life in that kind of manner.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Because they did start shaming her pretty quickly.
Yeah, which wasn't okay at the time.
Not at the time. Now I don't give a shit. So as I said earlier, Shannon was found alive and well on the 14th of March 2008 at a house belonging to a 39-year-old Michael Donovan. Funnily enough, Donovan turns out to be the uncle of Craig Meehan, who's the boyfriend of Karen Mathews.
That definitely had nothing to do with it. Definitely had nothing.
Definitely couldn't hurt anybody or have anything to do with anything. West Yorkshire Police found Shannon at 12:30 in the afternoon, 24 days after she went missing. She was concealed in the base of a divan bed in a flat in Lydgate Gardens, Batley Car. Michael Donovan was arrested at the scene. So she was kept there for 24 days. And then I should have looked into it further, but in certain tabloid articles, they said that she was tethered to the bed.
Oh.
So she couldn't leave. I don't know how true that is, but what I do know is true, because it was entered as evidence, was they wrote her a set of rules that she had to stick to. Do you want to know them?
I do, and that also kind of, I was just about to ask you, did they keep her under the bed?
Not for the whole time.
No, so because by having a set of rules, that kind of says that she was allowed to be...
She was allowed to be out and around the house kind of thing, but I think when the police showed up, they were like, under the bed. In you go. Like, hide her, So the rules were, you must not make any noise or bang your feet. You must not go near the windows. You must not get anything or do anything without me being here. Funnily enough, being is actually spelled bean, B-E-E-N.
Bean.
Without me being here. Keep the TV volume low. Oh, what does that say? This is like the actual note rather than like a transcript.
I was going to say, if you typed it out and you can't read your typed out, but...
Keep the TV volume, brackets, low. Only up to 8 or lower.
Oh, mine's is 15. My telly's allowed to be 15.
That's a pretty good number, actually.
Yeah.
I'm always... Do you know, like, people get funny about being, like, you can't have it on an uneven number unless it's... I can if it's a 5. It's got to be an even number, like 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
Thanks for clarifying even numbers there.
I'll allow a 5.
You'll allow a 5?
Like, I'll allow 15, 25, I'll allow that.
I mean, if you got it up at 25, your telly's broken.
I'm not having I'm not having a 17, though. It's not happening.
I can't wait to hear mine next. Just everything in the house is on volume 11.
I don't know if mine's 11, actually.
Well, it's what you turn it up to. Spinal Tap told me that.
Nice.
Thank you.
You can play the Super Mario games, and you can play some DVDs, and you can play the CD music. And then at the bottom, so like, look. So these are the rules written in just like a normal biro pen. And then at the bottom, in big capital letters and a black kind of marker, IPU, the 3 letters. And that stands for, again, please notice the U on the end. I promise you. Not IPY, IPU. I promise you. And apparently this is the threat that they used to say like that. Like they'd be like, your mum would maybe go like, I promise you this?
Yeah.
I promise you was like a threat that they used to use to her when they were going to get her in trouble for something. So it was a list of rules with a threat at the bottom, like you stick to these rules or I promise you this, like you'll regret it.
That note says you're a dickhead.
Pretty much. So the rules were obviously designed in order to keep her from being discovered, like while she was in the flat. Shannon was rescued and then placed under police protection and cared for by the local social services department. She ceased to be the subject of police protection only 3 days later. She then remained in the care of Kirklees Family Services on a voluntary basis.
There's so many things wrong with those last 2 sentences, it baffles my brain.
I know.
The police should have... It doesn't take 3 days to recover from that amount of time in captivity, essentially.
Well, she was still being looked after, but
on a voluntary basis.
But she wasn't under police protection. So she was still being looked after by Child Social Services, but just not... She wasn't under high...
She didn't have a police officer with her.
Yeah, and...
She should have had a police officer with her.
I don't think she should have. Very good reason why not. We'll get there.
Okay.
So on the 15th of March, the police reported that Shannon had begun to recover after her ordeal. Specially trained officers began their questioning to establish what had happened, and this lasted for several weeks. The questioning took place in 10-minute sessions at a special children's suite which resembled a classroom. So they could only question her for 10 minutes at a time just because it was causing... Like, they didn't want to cause so much
She's 9 years
stress.
old, that's fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely
And
fair.
classroom settings, fine, because, she's comfortable in that kind of place.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, that's all makes sense to me.
So during the course of the questioning, it soon transpired that the kidnapping was planned by Karen, her own mum, and her boyfriend's uncle, Michael Donovan, with the intent to generate money from the publicity that would surround Shannon's disappearance.
Arseholes.
Yes. And this is why, very quickly, she didn't need police protection, because they were like, oh, somebody's not going to come and, like, somebody's not coming looking for you. Like, it was your family that did this. We've now removed you. you're with child services, they're not coming for you.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's not like...
She wasn't under threat anymore.
She's not been found in the hands of a horrible paedophile or anything like that. She's been found by her family who just have gone away.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The plan had been for Donovan to release Shannon at Dewsbury Market, drive her on the corner to then discover her, and then take her to a police station and claim the £55,000 reward. And then Karen and Donovan were going to split the money.
That's fucking terrible.
Fucking disgraceful.
I don't really... I mean, I know exactly how I feel about that, but I presume... I presume you're going on to tell us what happened to them.
Yes.
I'd throw away the key.
It's just pathetic. What a pathetic plan.
Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, absolutely. Don't even throw away the key. Put them in the middle of a maze. Just tell them they can get out. Yeah. If you get out, you get out, because they're not making it. They're fucking dumb.
They're just so stupid. What a stupid idea.
It's never, like, there's absolutely no chance of that working.
Never. Literally never.
They weren't smart enough to make it work.
Because, like, how on earth, like, how are you meant to... So you're going to drop her off, just, like, at the market. Right. Just stand there. I'm just going to drive around the block. Oh, my God, Shannon, it's you. Yeah. I can't believe I found you. And how bizarre is it that me, of all people, your mum's boyfriend's uncle has discovered you.
Dog walkers, sisters,
you know,
yeah.
The police couldn't find you. All the people that were helping look for you couldn't find you. But yet, here I am, a relative, stumbling upon you in the street. And now I'm going to go to the police station and demand my £55,000.
And a 9-year-old is smart enough and aware enough to go, they did it.
Yeah. No, it's not even, it wouldn't even be that. It'd be, Shannon, can you tell us where you've been? Been at Uncle Michael's?
Been under the bed.
Been at Uncle Michael's?
I've got a lot of rules. I'm allowed to play Mario, though.
Let me watch telly at 8.
At 8, not 9.
Doesn't
go to 9.
Do you know what I mean? Fucking idiots.
They're the sort of people that I just want to throw in the sea.
Get in that sea.
Yeah, just get in the sea.
Just go in there now. We have no use for you. Go.
Yeah, I can think of quite a long list of people I'd like to throw in the sea, but they're definitely at the top of it now. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So their joint trial at Leeds Crown Court commenced on the 11th of November in 2008, and it lasted until the 4th of December of the same year. During the trial, the court and the jury and the judge and everybody, don't know why I'm describing everybody in the court heard evidence.
And the blonde girl in the corner.
And the reporter and the gallery heard evidence that Shannon had been drugged to subdue her while she was being held.
Okay.
A forensic toxicologist told the court that tests on Shannon's hair indicated that she'd been given temazepam for up to about 20 months before her disappearance.
Oh, so they'd really planned this out.
Well, I don't even think it was a case of that. I think they were just horrible people that couldn't be bothered with, like, a loud, active child in the house, and they were like, do you know what, we'll just drug her.
Because I went straight to they've been planning this for a couple of years.
I don't think so.
Just didn't like her.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I think you're giving
them
far too much credence. Yeah. I think you're giving them way too much respect there to say that they planned it for at least 20 months.
You take this and shut up.
Yeah, just shh. Do you know what temazepam is?
It's a sedative.
Yeah, it's a sleeping pill.
Yeah.
You take it if you cannot sleep.
And as soon as you do, you sleep.
I think so, yeah. So Donovan claimed that Karen had asked him to look after her daughter for several days and that they would make money from newspaper rewards if he kept quiet. He told the court that she had threatened him with violence and so he'd just gone along with it. But then, funnily enough, when it came time for Karen Mathews to give evidence, she stood in the dock crying and sobbing the whole way through.
Of course she did.
Denying having anything to do with her daughter's disappearance. She instead claimed that her boyfriend Meehan had told her to take the blame for what had happened, and she said that she only did it because she was scared of him.
Get in the sea.
Yeah. In her cross-examination, Julian Goose, best name ever, said that Karen had told police a total of 5 versions of the story and accused her of telling lie after lie after lie.
I was going to say, because her immediate response in the TV interviews was he had nothing to do with it, and then she just went, it was him.
Yeah. Oh, he told me just to take the blame because I'm scared of him. I just did it. I don't know. Like crying. Shut up. Both Karen and Donovan were sentenced to 8 years in prison.
Not enough.
Donovan was charged with kidnapping and false imprisonment, while Karen was charged with child neglect and perverting the course of justice. Separately, on the 16th of September, Meehan, the boyfriend, was convicted of 11 counts of possessing child pornography, which were discovered on his computer during the investigation but had nothing to do with the kidnapping. 11 counts.
Cut his cock off.
Yep. And annoyingly, well, not annoyingly, just here's some more information. That's horrible. The 11 counts of child pornography ranged like across the scale. So there's like a scale of severity of child pornography. Ugh. And he had like all types.
The fact that exists makes my skin crawl.
Yeah, fuck that as a living. But like...
people have had to look at that as well, haven't they?
Grade it.
Oh, I feel sorry for the policeman now.
It's horrible, isn't it?
Well, that's really grim.
He was sentenced, do you want to guess to how long for 11 counts?
20 minutes.
20 weeks.
20 weeks.
Which, by the way, he'd spent longer than that in custody whilst on remand for this court date, so was released on the same day as he was sentenced because he'd already served his notice, like served his imprisonment term.
He'd have been destroyed in jail as well.
Oh, he would have been fucking killed, yeah.
Ugh, that really angers me.
It pisses me off. How can you have 11 counts and just get 20 weeks? 20 weeks is nothing.
Was Shannon harmed by them in any way?
No.
Other than the drugs, obviously.
No, like, I don't think so. There was not really any mention of that, no.
Then I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the child porn is worse.
Especially if they've been drugging her for 20 months.
Just...
like, I don't want to, like, conject, but, like, you know...
yeah, move on.
Moving on.
I'm thinking too much.
Karen Mathews was released from prison in April 2012 after serving half of her sentence. And Donovan had already been released at this point.
Of course he has.
Yup. Karen was given a new name for use in public, and this is excellent. The authorities didn't think, though, that she was mentally capable of maintaining a completely new identity, so she would have to use her real name when working with officials, because they just couldn't trust her to keep a tabs on her new identity.
She's not a smart one, but she knows what love is.
During the trial, the prosecution revealed that Shannon Mathews had been suffering from nightmares after the event and needed regular psychotherapy counselling. Shannon was later given a new identity and placed with a foster family.
I hope they looked after her better than her parents did.
I think...
I couldn't have done any worse, really, could they?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think you'd be hard-pressed to be placed into, like... a worse situation.
What a fucking terrible story. Not your version of it, might I add. But
it's just sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Poor girl.
There is a dramatised version of the story.
There is indeed. We did discuss this last time.
We did, and I couldn't remember who it was, but it's Sheridan Smith that's in it.
Love her.
And it's after we talked about it last time, I had a quick look at it again, and I haven't watched it again since. But it got absolutely slated.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? I saw that too.
But
I might watch it. I love Sheridan Smith.
Yeah, me too. Like almost too much, actually. We went and saw her in. I don't know if I've told you this.
Yeah.
We went and saw her in Legally Blonde in London.
Fabulous.
One of the first big London shows Roz and I went to see together.
Did she play the lead?
Yeah, she was playing Elle Woods. Yeah.
Excellent. I love it. Off the bat, you straight away know her name.
Of course I do. And her love interest was Duncan from Blue.
I love Duncan.
Who, when I hugged him, I told him he was my favourite Blue.
Duncan, you're my favourite Blue.
You're my favourite Blue.
I bet you love that.
I've got a lovely photo of me and Sheridan Smith together as well, which I'll show you.
You're my favourite Blue.
You're my favourite Blue. He was my favourite Blue.
I think that's fair. I quite like Simon Webbe, to be honest. I had his album, actually.
Not my favourite Blue.
No, I quite like Simon Webbe. I do like Sheridan.
Anyway, we've certainly gone off topic here. That was good. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I like that.
Do you know what that story's about?
Go on.
Because, well, I'm just stealing this from the last time we recorded, but I liked it as a title for my story, so I'm going to have to just bring it up in the most unnatural way I possibly can.
Go.
Story about greedy bitches.
It is, yeah. No, I actually meant to say that to you earlier. Like, when you're talking about...
It is greedy.
The reason behind it all was money.
Money.
They'd obviously seen what...
The publicity.
The publicity and the money that had been poured into the McCann case and gone, we can do that. And, well, they couldn't. Because...
Do you know, in this day and age, who in the fuck really thinks that they can outsmart the police? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what it comes down to as well, is we can make a load of money, fool the public into giving us all this money, like all this publicity and stuff, feeling sorry for us, and we'll also, like, somehow trick the police whilst keeping her in one of our family members' flats.
Well, you look at the the case I talked about, the canoe man, John Darwin.
Yeah.
He tried to do exactly.
They did a pretty good job for a while, to be fair.
But he fucked up as well.
Yeah, he was like, oh, I've got amnesia. Came back.
And it was...
Idiot.
Well, the posting of the internet picture was his...
That was also,
his failing. But he was almost smart enough to do it.
Almost. And they planned that took some planning.
Yeah.
They had like secret corridors into other houses and shit.
Yeah, I wonder if
they went full out.
I wonder what volume he had the telly at in the other flat.
Gonna say like a solid 6 for safety.
So
they're smarter.
Even number.
Yeah. Maybe a 5. I'll have a 5.
Nah, it's too low. Can't hear it. You need to sit really close and then your eyes would hurt.
Square eyes is the worst.
Apparently not a real thing.
Is it not?
Apparently not, yeah.
I used to worry when I was younger. My mum used to tell me that you get square eyes, that my eyes would actually turn into squares, and I was really concerned about it for quite a long time. And then actually, at some point, a few points in my life, like, have you ever played like a game on your phone that's got too many circles on it? Like...
Too many circles in it?
Like, do you know, like... something of the ilk of like Candy Crush or something, where it's like loads of circles, you've got to like match them.
Okay, yeah.
And then you look away and you're like, whoa, everything's so sharp edge, like everything's got such a sharp edge and everything's really square.
I think you did sit too close to the telly.
Then I was like, wow, square eyes is a thing. So I dispute that, Bob. Square eyes is real. I've had it.
So Nadine's medical advice for this week is nobody sit too close to the television, because then you can't play Candy Crush.
Don't look at too many circles.
And too many circles is not a good thing. That was good. I like that.
Thanks. We've digressed so much during this.
Sorry about that. If you're still listening, thanks. You're on short story this week. I'll try and maybe shorten mine off a bit then,
We did blab a lot at the start.
We did. So anyway, we're going to go for a break just now.
Yeah, sorry. You'll probably need one as well.
Thank you very much for listening so far. We'll be back in a minute.
Bye.
Aaron and she talks. $10 was.
You are listening to 5:30 on your podcast dial.
Confused yet? Well, my dad, Raymond, or Ruckland, is putting out 5 and 30, an interview podcast. Wait, don't leave. It's not going to be one of those boring, hour-long shows. No, he's going to be sitting down with creators, voice actors, and hosts from many different shows that he swears you will have heard of, and asking them 5 random questions. They could be simple, deep, or just plain silly, and after they answer them, they'll get 30 seconds to plug whatever they want. No matter what, the goal is for you, yes you, to get to know the people behind the shows you listen to even better. And who knows, maybe you'll even find a new show to check out. This will all be coming to you everywhere you already get your podcasts starting the first week of the new year. Check castjunkie.com for more details. Okay, Dad, I did the thing. Can I please go now?
5 and 30 with Ruck, coming soon.
And that's us back.
Hello.
Not as cold as it was last night when we were recording, thankfully.
I know. Last night, I'd go out for a cigarette and I'd come back in and somehow be colder.
You were a frosticle.
I was.
A Nadine frosticle.
Now I'm a cozy Nadine.
Yes, because you're a long sleeve, lovely Twisted Britain t-shirt on this evening.
I do indeed.
You've just been accused of being a flasher on the internet.
Well, you know, takes one to know one.
So I'm going to... I'm supposed to be on long story this week, but we'll see, considering how long we blethered for that last one, how we get on here. But I'm going to tell you about the last woman hung in the UK.
I've never heard of this.
So Ruth Ellis, who was the last woman hung in the UK, freely admitted in court that she had shot her lover, David Blakely, with the full intent of killing him. In answer to the prosecution's question, with what intent did you have that night? She answered, it's obvious when I shot him. I intended to kill him.
Fair enough.
She was found guilty of murder in 1955 on the 13th of July, and she was hanged at Holloway Prison.
Ooh.
So that's my story.
Oh, lovely. Good long one.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I like that. You did go on for a bit too long, if you ask me.
Oh, sorry. I'll try and shorten it next
please,
week.
Would you?
Do you want to know a bit about Ruth?
Go on, then.
Okay, cool. So Ruth Nielsen, as she was born in Rhyl in North Wales in October of 1926 to Arthur Hornby and Bertha Hornby, who was a Belgian refugee. In her early childhood, the family moved around a lot because her dad was a traveling musician.
That's cool.
He basically played music for silent films. So he'd be in kind of like...
I think that's such a cool job.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, isn't it? So he'd go around cinemas and play music to accompany the black and white silent movies.
I'd love to go and see one of them, actually, at some point. I think it sounds like a lot of fun.
We went and watched Harry Potter.
Oh, you did, didn't you?
Accompanied by the Philharmonic Orchestra. And it was incredible.
I bet it was.
I think the best compliment they could have got that night was there was a wee boy sat next to us who turned to his mum and said, "Mummy, it sounds like the orchestra aren't even there."
Aww.
And I think that's quite cool.
Lovely.
It's quite a spectacle to see it played, though. And
the timing would have to be like...
Oh, they were excellent. So yeah, that was the kind of thing that her dad did.
Cool.
Her dad wasn't a very nice man, though.
Oh.
He abused his daughters in all manner of abuse. He mentally abused them, physically abused them, and sadly sexually abused them as well. So he wasn't a very nice man, and he's made my list of bad bastards, but he wouldn't go on the...
He's not even worth mentioning.
He's not going on the actual list.
No.
But one of their moves was to Basingstoke, where Ruth went to an all-girls school until she was about 14, and when she left school at that age, she got a job as a waitress. In the following year of 1941, the family moved to London, and that's kind of where they settled their family life kind of in London at this point. And Ruth continued to work as a waitress when she got there, but by the time she was 17 in 1944, she had met a married Canadian soldier. She didn't marry him, sorry, he was married. Mm-hmm. And she fell pregnant with his child, and the son, Andy, was born. The soldier decided that he wasn't for staying with them. He didn't want to have a 17-year-old love mistress in the UK, and obviously being in 1944, a Canadian soldier was there for part of the Second World War, and he decided just to bugger off back to Canada to his wife. Not such a pleasant character either, but he did continue to send money to the child. That's,
well, at least something.
For a year, and then that stopped.
Well, don't cost anything after a year, do they?
Nah, no, nothing at all. Eventually, Andy was taken in and cared for by Bertha, so by Ruth's mother. Mm-hmm. I suppose because she was a young woman who was out working and maybe didn't know how to look after the child or whatever, but that's entirely my speculation.
Yeah.
But by 17, she'd had a kid, and the kid was being looked after by mum. Ruth was a reasonably attractive young woman. Actually, not in the way that I've tried to be nice before. Ruth was actually quite an attractive woman, and at the age of 17, she started to make use of her looks. And she dyed her hair like platinum blonde, like very Marilyn Monroe-esque, and got a job in a nightclub as a hostess. Yeah, she also did some modelling on the side, and eventually started doing some of the more risque modelling. Mm-hmm. Essentially topless modelling. I don't think she was 17 at that time, obviously, but she was doing topless modelling, working as a hostess. Oh, sorry, the hostess in a nightclub is a bit different to what it's not what you would consider a nightclub these days. It was very much...
They're more like gentlemen's clubs.
Yeah, that's probably a good way of putting it, and she was very much there to make sure all the gentlemen's needs were dealt with, which in turn led to prostitution.
Oh dear.
She ended up falling pregnant once again to one of her regular customers, but this pregnancy was terminated and she returned to work not long after that.
This is a slippery slope.
Yeah. She's not had the best of upbringings to this point.
No.
And I'd guess she's probably about 18 or 19 at this time. And it's during this period in her life when she was working in the nightclubs that she met a man called George Ellis, who was a 41-year-old divorced dentist.
Oh, what a catch.
Yeah. I suppose a dentist would have made a good amount of money in that day.
No, I bet
or this day.
Teeth weren't going well.
Great sentence.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm sticking to it.
George Ellis was a customer at the club that Ruth worked in called the Court Club. He was a very lovely man. He was a genuinely violent alcoholic.
Lovely.
One of the good ones, obviously.
Oh, so a definite catch then.
So she married him.
Oh, well, as you would. You can't let a man like that slip through your fingers.
How she became Ruth Ellis.
Well, this makes sense.
She married him in when she married him, she was 23 years old. The marriage didn't stay in a happy place for very long, and Ruth started to become very obsessively jealous, like really she seemed to be an obsessed type of woman, and was convinced that he was having an affair. And through this, her jealousy kind of built and built and built, and she decided to leave him again and again and again. But obviously, every time that she left him, she returned to him anyway. In 1951, Ruth gave birth to to a daughter of hers and George's by the name of Georgina.
Hate that.
Really?
Yeah. I don't, not the name Georgina, just hate the fact that he's called George and she's called Georgina. Hate that.
Do you not like the idea of naming after family names, or just...
Well, my family do it, but you give, like, it's like your middle name.
Okay.
So, like, my brother is David John Nicholas after my mum's and my dad's dad's.
Okay.
And...
See, I'm Bob. I'm Bob Robert, and my mum's father.
You made that sound like your name is Bob Robert.
My name's Bob Robert. No, well, my Sunday name is Robert, obviously. Yes. Literally nobody calls me Robert. Everybody calls me Bob.
Yeah.
But that was my mum's. That was my papa on my mum's side. Was like Papa Bob.
Yeah, yeah, like that. I think especially if it's
a girl getting the dad's name.
I just think it's a bit...
Well, it turns out George didn't like it too much either, because he refused to acknowledge her as his daughter. And this proved to be the kind of straw that broke the camel's back for Ruth. Mm-hmm. And she decided that that's it, we're being permanently separated now. If you won't acknowledge this as your daughter, and you've been incredibly violent to me, and I'm away.
Good, finally.
And she moved back in with her parents. And sadly, not too long after moving back into with her parents, returned to her life of prostitution to make a living. Over the following few years, Ruth worked pretty hard, and through her work in the nightclub, she managed to work her way up to being a manager.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And
she managed a club in Knightsbridge called the Little Club. I've just realised that
Knightsbridge.
I was just telling Nadine in the break, there's a completely side story, that during the pub quiz, we were asked the question, which borough in London has 6 consecutive consonants? And I've just realised I've written it down here. There
Amazing. Maybe it was in your subconscious the whole time.
Yeah, well, we got it right.
Well, exactly.
And then I ended up winning the raffle for another question that was similar and won 200 quid.
It's a good one. Maybe you should ask it now, then we can tell the answer at the end.
So the question I was asked in the raffle was, which piece of how was it phrased? So,
like what
would you wear to bed at night that has 5 consecutive consonants?
We will tell you at the end.
So Ruth was managing this club in Knightsbridge called the Little Club.
Lovely. Sounds quite delightful.
So while managing the club, she was living quite a life for a woman that was brought up in not by no means a middle class, upper class family. You know, they were working class, travelled around for dad's work, and she kind of got used to this wonderful life she was living. She was hanging out with men who were, by all means, they were upper class. They were racing drivers and I would imagine bankers and all that kind of stuff. And they liked to splash their money around.
As you would.
And she made the most of that.
As you would.
It's through this life that she won the admiration of a man by the name of David Blakely, who I named earlier.
We know his fate.
We do know his fate, yeah. It's not often I tell you the fate of somebody right at the beginning. David was a man of inherited means. And I think he had something like £7,000 that he'd inherited from his father passing away.
Wowee. Which
was a fair amount of money at the time.
Did you do the maths?
Nope. Well, you didn't do it for 2008.
Sorry.
He had a passion for racing cars and big drinking sessions. 2 passions in life, booze and cars.
I'm not mad at him for it.
No, I'm not mad at him. Not 2 things that normally mix very well.
Oh, yeah, good point. Not the same time, please.
When the two met in the club, he was already engaged, but he soon left his fiancée and moved in with Ruth. He was basically to become the man that she fell madly in love, like head over heels in love with.
This is the one.
This is the man I want to spend the rest of my life with.
Lovely. Well, that's nice.
The couple moved in together into a flat that she was in that was owned by the club, so part of her job...
she got like living with it.
Yeah, so the part of the perks was she lived in a flat that the club owned.
That's nice. Good gig.
Bit of a roller coaster of a relationship kicks off from here. It wasn't a smooth relationship by any stretch of the imagination. Both of them full of the booze, like all the time. And a bit, maybe speculation here, probably a bit more than the booze.
I'm presuming baby Georgina's now with Granny as well.
Yeah, don't know, but I'm going to guess so.
You'd presume, wouldn't you?
Because...
Ship it off to Gran.
I found no other mention of Georgina.
Okay.
Other than the bit I found at the beginning.
And Andy as well.
And Andy. So I presume Bertha's got them both.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yes.
Because they'll live in this mad party life.
Rock and roll.
Yeah, a bit of rock and roll. If they had tellies, they'd have flung them out of windows.
Be very rock and roll.
They both regularly beat the shit out of each other.
Charming.
And I specifically say both of them here because, like I say, she was quite an obsessive, jealous woman. Bit of fire in her belly. And she had a fair go at him on quite a few occasions. And he beat her quite badly at times. I'll get on to that in a minute. But the one thing that they didn't have one thing that David didn't seem to have any issue with was her sexually active lifestyle. And she was sexually active with other men, whether it be through her work or
just for fun.
He didn't seem to have that much of an issue, so I wouldn't have said it was a monogamous relationship.
It's like an open relationship.
Yeah,
quite modern.
And I think on both sides.
Yeah.
Although she was a jealous woman, I think she saw what she was getting, so didn't worry about what he was getting either. But there's one relationship outside of their main relationship that we'll focus on. And that's a relationship she had with a guy called Desmond Coulson. He was a former RAF pilot who'd flown in the Second World War. He was another man that she'd met in the clubs, but the difference here was Desmond really loved her. Desmond was
Was he a nice man?
He didn't beat her.
Well, that's an improvement. A definite improvement.
Definitely. I'm not going to say he was a perfect gentleman, but he didn't beat her.
Well, that's good, isn't it?
Which is a massive step from any relationship she's had so far.
I think looking at the two, I think I'd go with Desmond, actually.
As would I. Former RAF pilot.
Yes, quite.
Lovely man, splashing his money around the clubs. Sure.
Yeah.
We'll find you a Desmond.
I'd love it. If you would, that'd be quite the thing.
I'll take a Desmond.
We all deserve a Desmond.
It was, however, the relationship that she had with Desmond that caused everything to spiral out of control. Desmond hated David, but Ruth loved the excitement of both having David, who was that
fiery danger.
Yeah, and Desmond, who was the reliable one. He was the nice man. You know, it's nice to have a nice man, but it's also nice to have the bad boy, I suppose.
You can get pissed with and have a good fight.
Yeah, exactly. Probably mad sex and everything, you know. There was definitely...
I want to find me somewhere between a Desmond and a David.
A Davemond. A Davemond.
Any Davemonds out there? Get
Any
in touch.
Davemonds, give us a shout. She did use Desmond as a means to wind David up and try and get... I've written here, try and get her own way, but I can't really surmise in my head... I've put ... after get her own way here because I don't know in my head what it was that she was looking for. And I think it is that combination of excitement and reliability. She wanted both but couldn't get it. And the way that she was getting it was by spending reliable time with Desmond when David could see that happening and that would
rile him up.
Fire him up, yeah. So during the time that Ruth had taken Desmond on as another lover, David had started to run a bit low on the old inheritance money.
Oh.
And this is where things start to get a bit tricky.
Too many nights in that little club.
They needed money coming in to fuel the lifestyle that they were used to living. And that lifestyle was one of booze-filled evenings. But obviously what comes with that was the violence that was involved in their relationship. And David did not hold back at all, like I said. He would full-on punch her in the face, causing bruising. He kicked her, he slapped her. On one occasion, with Ruth pregnant, now I don't know whether it was with his or Desmond's baby.
I suppose she probably didn't either.
I don't think anybody would have done. He punched her so hard in the stomach that it caused her to miscarriage. No? Nothing.
It's just horrendous.
It's just like that
is the worst thing.
That's a tipping point from fierce excitement to, well, you've just caused me to have a miscarriage.
I can't even imagine.
All this was obviously having an effect on Ruth in her general life, but it was also having an effect on her work. She wasn't going to be able to carry on that hostess to rich playboys if she's covered in bruising.
Yeah, it's not going to look good, is it?
So it's at this point that her boss, now I said she was a manager, but she was obviously not the owner of the club or the big boss of the club, basically gave her an ultimatum and said, it's David or work. You can't keep coming in like this.
I think that's totally fair.
What would you choose?
Work.
Yeah. Ruth didn't. Ruth chose David.
Love of her life.
Not the smartest of choices, because the big problem that comes with that is, well, she lost her flat as well as her job. So here she is, homeless, with a violent man who's just left his fiancée.
And is running out of money.
Who's got no money left, and you've got no way of making ends meet at all. Because
excellent.
Well, she probably did. She could probably go back to prostitution. And I'm going to say here, I've said prostitution a few times here, but I don't mean...
She wasn't out slinging on the streets.
No, it's not dark alley type prostitution. It was probably more escorting.
Yeah, it was men in the club that she was entertaining all night with booze and cigars and whatnot. And then they'd pay her some money to go off into a different room or something or whatever.
And more booze and cigars and whatnot.
Yes.
So who comes to her rescue?
Desmond?
Desmond came to her rescue.
Yes, Desmond.
Desmond, being the nice guy that he was, managed to create this wonderfully weird scenario where he got Ruth to go and live with him. Don't know where David was living at this time, but he wasn't living with David and Ruth. But he didn't stop her seeing David.
I think, though, you probably couldn't. She's obviously completely infatuated with him. Like, she just chose to be homeless, for Christ's sake, so that she didn't lose him. If you were Desmond, and like you said, he's like totally in love with her and like wants to be with her, if you said to her, I'll be with you and you can live with me, but you have to stop seeing David, you know she's going to just choose David, and then you're going to lose her entirely yourself.
That's true, actually, because she's already made a massive life choice to stay with him.
Yeah, you think, like, you know that David's her favourite, probably, and like, you're not stupid, yeah. Desmond. So he would have probably weighed that up and gone, if I like forbid her to see him, she's just going to piss off.
So like I say, this weird scenario starts to happen where she's living with Desmond in his house, but he allows David to come to the flat and enjoy their promiscuous ways together, shall we say. Excellent.
Hope he wasn't in at the time.
I presume he wasn't the voyeur.
Never know.
Never know.
Don't kink shame.
Absolutely not. But I didn't get the impression that there was no part was a three-way relationship.
Yeah. Well, Desmond hated him.
Well, it was a three-way relationship. She was just...
It was a love triangle.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for. It was a love triangle, and he just allowed that triangle to continue to keep her, essentially.
I think, yeah, okay.
So my speculation entirely on this is that, like you say, she was absolutely head over heels in love with David. Oh, that was a tricky one. He hated her. He hated him, but wanted her to be happy. Mm-hmm. And the only way she's going to be happy is stay with David as well.
Yeah.
But he's got something brewing in the background here.
Okay.
So at some point in early 1955, Desmond took Ruth somewhere quiet and taught her how to shoot a revolver.
Okay.
A couple of things I read said he'd taken her to a certain beach, and I didn't write down which beach it was because I didn't do the geography on this. I didn't work out where from Knightsbridge you would have gone.
Yeah.
But he certainly took her somewhere where she could shoot a revolver in 1955 without anybody going, what he's up to.
Yeah.
Purpose being, don't know, lovely day out, here, do you want to come and shoot my revolver? I'll show you what to do. Don't know what he speculated to her the reason was.
I don't know. Like, we talked about this last time we recorded this, but I think that, like, if I had a boyfriend that had a gun and it wasn't illegal as it is now, and he was like, oh, I can teach you how to shoot it if you want, like, I've got a really good aim, I'll teach you how to like shoot some cans down or something, I'd be like, hells yeah, that sounds like a really fun day out, let's go and do that. It might not be as sinister as you are implying. I'm on 100% Desmond's side, obviously. I fancy him. So,
I'm going to move us on then, because I'm not 100% on Desmond's
Tell me
side.
why. Tell me why.
So, before I conject, Ruth at this point has pretty much spiraled into a place where she is off her tits 90% of the time, because she's...
Well, just struggling to cope, probably, and also a raging alcoholic.
And I'm guessing she made a decision that she wanted it all to stop. I can't do this anymore. She's not that older woman. She wants everything to calm down. I've had enough. Shit's happened. Let's stop this now. So let's roll on Easter weekend that year. And she's in a bit of a fit of a jealous rage, which wasn't unusual for her. And it was directly aimed at David.
Right.
So this fit of rage had built up because David was supposed to have seen her over the Easter weekend. I don't think they were going to church, but I do believe that he was supposed to be seeing her on the Friday. But he'd been trying to stay out of the way of her because he was like, she's off her nut at the moment. She's not, she's a bit mad. I'm just going to...
Can't be bothered taking another beating.
Exactly. Can't be bothered issuing another beating, whatever it happened to be. So he managed to stay away from her until Easter Sunday. At which point they found out where he was drinking. And I say they specifically because Desmond offered to drive her to the pub that he was drinking in, the Magdala, in Hampstead, which is still there.
Oh, add it to the tour.
So I saw a couple of police reports on it where they've gone back and visited it as 50 years since the last woman was executed type thing. Oh. And they do the piece to cameras outside the Magdala, and it's not the place it was, but it's still the same name, same building.
Excellent.
So we'll stick it on the pub tour list.
Yeah, I should put it on the tour.
It's getting a serious list.
I'm going to have to troll back through these episodes so I can actually make this a thing.
So Desmond drives her to the Magdala, and she arrives outside with the Smith & Wesson revolver that she's learned to shoot.
Desmond's, I presume.
Desmond's, Smith & Wesson. Loaded with 6 bullets and stands.
Quite a lot.
It's a one of the...
Well, that's just full, is it?
Yeah, it's one of the...
Twisty
barrel ones, yeah. That's got 6... It's a 6-shooter. Like your stereotypical kind of cowboy-esque.
Pretty cool.
So she arrives outside and has a wee peek through the window. A wee keek through the window. I love a wee keek. Has a wee keek through the window to make sure that David is actually in the pub. She sees him in the pub drinking with his friend Clive Gunnell and decides to wait outside. David and Clive are sitting having a drink, unaware that outside is a boiling blonde fit of rage.
My favourite thing you've ever said.
That was probably just getting worse and worse every moment that they were in that pub.
Oh, yeah. Of course, you're stood outside already a fuming. You've seen him in there and seen him carrying on with his pal, having a laugh. You're going to be stood outside there thinking, oh yeah, funny is it? Funny is it? Stood out here waiting on you. Funny. You just be getting worse and worse.
You're sounding more and more like Ruth. I'm going to back up a bit. So at around 9:30 in the evening, David Blakely and his friend Clive Gunnell finish up their drinks, pay at the bar, and casually walk outside. The pair of them walk past Ruth and ignore her.
Bad idea.
Even when she calls David's name. He still ignores her. She draws her weapon and fires 2 bullets at him. The first one misses and causes him to run.
As it would.
Yeah, exactly. And the second hits him but doesn't stop him running. She fires a third shot and it drops him to the floor. She calmly walks over to him, stands over the body on the ground, and puts 2 bullets into his back.
Oh.
She then turns the gun on herself and tries to fire the gun, and it jams and doesn't fire. Obviously, a crowd has gathered at this point.
Yes.
And the crowd are standing mildly in shock. I would imagine chins on the ground type, what the fuck has just happened? It's 9:30 at night on Easter Sunday. Could make a joke about rising again, but I won't. Amongst the crowd, however, is an off-duty police officer who's been drinking in the Magdala as well. She turns to the crowd and says, "Call the police." To which the police officer responds with a wonderfully immortal line,
"I am the police.
I am the police."
I wish she said, "Call the law." I am the law.
I am the law. I am the police. Ruth turns to him and replies, well, you better arrest me then.
A fair statement.
She hands over the weapon and gives herself up with no trouble and is taken to Hampstead police station. David is rushed to hospital and pronounced dead on arrival. That evening, in the police station, Ruth admits to the police that she had done it, she had no remorse about doing it, and she was examined by a medical professional who came to the conclusion that there was no signs of mental illness or insanity, so she was fit to stand trial.
My God.
On the 20th of June, 1955, at the Old Bailey, Ruth Ellis is put on trial for the murder of David Blakely. The prosecution pose her with one question, essentially, which is, when you fired the gun, did you mean to kill? She turns and replies quite simply, it's obvious that when I shot him, I intended to kill him. To no surprise of anybody's, it took the jury 14 minutes to conclude that she was guilty.
If anything, I'm surprised it took that long.
No, exactly. Well, that's the walk to the room.
How many minutes? Yeah, walk there, sit down, cup of tea, sandwich.
Maybe a scone.
Bit chit-chat, fag, cigarette.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Guilty.
Oh, yeah.
Guilty.
Yeah.
Shall we go back and tell them?
Yeah, I suppose. Or we could just sit here for another 5 minutes, bit warmer in here.
So they they charge her with the murder of David Blakely, and she was sent to Holloway Prison in London to essentially wait the sentence of death. Because it was cold-blooded murder that the jury and the court decided, the judge had obviously donned his black cap and gone, there's only one sentence I can hand down in this manner for the charges that you've been found guilty of, and that is to be hanged until dead. So she was sentenced to the hanging, and she was sentenced that the date would be I haven't written down that's annoying. I haven't written down the date that she was originally sentenced to, because it wasn't
the date she ended up being.
It wasn't the date she ended up hanging on. And apologies for that. I can't remember what the actual date was. There's a huge oversight here, in my opinion, and in the opinion of others, because there was a appeal lodged and everything. And the oversight there is she was taken to that place by Desmond, who had given her the gun and taught her how to shoot it. So like I said to you earlier, in the back of my head, I feel like he had something brewing in. We can get rid of David here.
Yeah. But then surely I see what you're saying, but by doing that, you're going to lose Ruth as well. If you allow her to go in cold blood murder him, how are you ever going to keep her? I don't imagine in his head he thought she was just going to go, it was me, I did it. I think in his head there was probably more of a fight to go on rather than a 14-minute jury. Yeah, I suppose. That, or maybe actually he didn't even want to keep her. Maybe after she moved in, she was just so much fucking trouble. He was like, do you know what? I thought I loved you, but my God. Your hard work. You are drunk all the time. You're not very nice actually to be around most of the time. Yeah, quite possibly. Just let's get rid of both of them. Yeah. Or, option C. So she's a boiling blonde fit of rage, right? She's raging that David's out drinking, doing God knows what with God knows who. And then she's going to Desmond, that's it, need to go and find him, blah, 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 kicking off. And he's like, oh God. And then maybe because we know she's aggressive and stuff and can be, she's been aggressive with David in the past. She's kicking off, threatening Desmond, and is like, take me to go and find David. You have to take me now. And just to shut her up, he's like, right, let's go. And then she's like, she goes and she knows where the gun is and takes the gun herself. With and then he gets there, she gets out the car, is furious, and he's like, see ya, and just drives off. Do we know if he waited around or did he? I actually don't know if he waited around. What I don't know for a fact, but I know that some of the reports I read say that she had indicated that she wanted to kill David. Right. And I'll get on to... But then again... I'll get on to why... How many times does somebody go, I'll kill him? I would imagine Rosalind says it daily. I'll get on to why I think... I read that once and I didn't include it in the story because I read it in one place, not in more than one. But I can believe that she did say it because of something that I'll go on to explain in a second. So like I say, she made a statement afterwards, basically to say all this stuff, that
she'd got the gun. Oh, no, sorry. A statement was made saying that she'd got the gun from Desmond and he'd driven her to the site. So he's culpable.
He's accessory, at least.
That was chosen to be ignored by the police and the authorities. They had their woman.
Yeah.
They had who had done it. They didn't need anything. Jury had found her guilty. Let's just carry out sentence. And that's the end of this. The funny thing here is her family lodged an appeal to say, basically, like, she's not the only person involved here and all that. Like, why is he not being on trial? Please look at her. She's not that type of woman. She's been caught up in a fit of rage.
She's a mother.
Exactly, all that. Ruth took no part in the appeal.
Wow.
When asked about it, she said, sentence has been passed and I can't wait to be with David again.
Uh-oh.
So that's what I mean. Like, in my head, she thought the only way out was for them to be dead together.
Yeah.
In an afterlife. Yeah, exactly. But so obviously the appeal doesn't carry through because Ruth wants nothing to do with it. And as such, on the 13th of July at 9 a.m. in the morning, a Wednesday, just in case you wanted to know.
Oh, thanks.
I don't know why I looked that up. I was like, what day is that? Because I think I've done it. No,
You've done that a few times. You quite like doing that.
Do you know what it is? It's the one that I did, and it was one of our Patreon episodes where I couldn't work out the date was wrong, why they were going to church.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was like, you look at the actual date and it was a Tuesday.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been like that. They should have been in school, not going to church.
So I've started looking up the days now just to make sure that all fits.
Look at you being thorough.
Well, yeah, you say that, but then I don't think there's like a hanging day.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what day it is.
Could have been hanged that day. It was Bloody Wednesday.
Well, so there you go. On Wednesday, the 13th of July, in 1955, the very famous hangman, Albert Pierrepoint,
your faves,
and his assistant took Ruth from her cell and escorted her to the execution room.
Ooh.
Which was just next door to where she was staying, essentially. And they did the full, how high are you, what weight are you, got the noose all ready, and she was executed. Post-mortem said within 12 seconds she was dead.
Wow.
But they left her body hanging for an hour. And I find that odd. For the information I know about Albert Pierrepoint, that doesn't fit with the information I know. Not that I'm saying I'm an expert by any means, but he certainly was an expert at what he did, and there was no need to leave her there for an hour.
Yeah.
Other than it being a statement.
You think?
Yeah, I just can't see a reasoning for it. So that's Ruth. Ruth died on the 13th of July, 1955.
I think it's really sad.
2 years after her execution, the Diminished Responsibility Act was passed, which would have seen, I've written here, this would have seen her sentence reduced to a manslaughter, which would have spared her the noose. Now, we're applying that in hindsight.
Yes.
So we can't say for definite that she would have been given a manslaughter charge.
No.
But based on the fact that she had the shit kicked out of her.
Yes.
By everybody. Every man in her life had beaten her, except Desmond. He'd just given her a gun.
Love you, Desmond.
And she's been sexually abused. She'd been mentally abused. She was a mad alcoholic. She was probably on the drugs. She'd gone through a life of prostitution. Not that I'm saying that individually any of these things build up to that.
No, but it's a lot of shit.
But there's a lot of case there to say that actually...
They're a very mentally fragile lady.
You can almost say there's no wonder she killed him.
Well, yeah.
So I'm going to say my speculation entirely is that if you had applied the diminished responsibility laws on her, she wouldn't have been hanged.
Probably not.
But that's speculation. We can't judge on the law now.
No, and you can never, you can't, posthumously kind of revoke, you can't
unhang somebody.
Well, exactly. It was like my Paisley witches story.
Yes.
They were all hanged for the crime of being witches. And then in recent years, there's been huge call for, just an apology, really, for all children, men and women that were hanged throughout Britain during the witchcraft.
I think the slight difference here is she did kill him in cold blood.
Yes, yeah.
Like, she was a murderer.
But it does like change it. And then like the answer with stuff like that is always like, well, if it was a crime at the time and those were the laws at the time, that's just how it was.
100% agree with you there. You can't now look at things now. There are miscarriages of justice.
All the time.
This wasn't a miscarriage of justice.
No.
I don't think.
I think one thing I will give our court systems is that they do sometimes like then get it right, like in the case of Sally Challen.
Yes, indeed.
She was then, it was looked back into, and then she was released. That's a perfect case
of diminished responsibility.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, it's a similar kind of story. It's long suffered abuse that eventually makes you snap one day because you can't really see any other way to get out, perhaps, and then you end up murdering the person.
Do you know So just to finish off, the only other big date that happens, no, not the only big date that happens after that, but another big date that happens, it's only 10 years after her hanging that capital punishment becomes abolished in the UK.
Such a shame.
So if she'd been held on death row as such, which I know isn't a thing there, there's every chance she could have still been alive today. She'd have been an old woman.
Oh yeah, I suppose so. That's a thought.
She'd have been 90 odds, but she would
still could have been.
I don't know, with that kind of booze-fueled lifestyle, she might not have been.
I don't know, that for a while the oldest woman in the world was a French woman. When they asked her secrets to like long life, she was like, I don't have any. I drink every day. I drink a glass of red wine, smoke at least 2 cigarettes, and have a bar of chocolate.
I thought it was brandy she drank, but yeah, not the same story. Yeah, I would have been very interested to know Albert Pierpoint's opinion on that, because I know in his later life he became completely against the death penalty.
Probably would, wouldn't you, if you spent your career killing people?
Well, he hung, I think...
Hanged,
sorry. I keep getting that wrong.
I know.
Somewhere in the region of 600 people.
Jeez, oh.
Now, I will at one point do
There is a massive call for it.
I know, I will do. After my spies, I'll do it, I'll tell you that.
Perfect, fine.
Oh, and I didn't actually say... I'll come on to that in a second. Yeah. I'd be interested to know his opinion on it, because it wasn't a hugely outspoken man, but he did become outspoken against the death penalty as such. And I wonder if it's one that he would have turned around and said, that's one I wouldn't have done. Thinking about it now. And I keep saying, like, in hindsight, it was the right sentence, but yeah, it's an odd one. Like I say, very beautiful. Very beautiful woman caught up in a horrible set of circumstances.
Yeah, just a string of shitty events, really.
She shouldn't have picked up that pistol that night, though.
No, it's a bad idea, really, isn't it?
So that's the story of the last woman executed in the UK.
Well, thank you very much. I think you did a wonderful job of covering
Thanks very much. I enjoyed it. It's a very long episode this evening.
It is.
And I will finish off by saying I mentioned spies there because I'm just about to go on to do another mini-series of mine that I'm going to do spies during the wars.
Which
in
is
Britain,
such a cool idea.
Which I'm very much looking forward to do.
Come up with it.
But we're going to stop waffling on here because this has been a rather long episode.
Yeah, let's wrap it up quickly.
So as always, we would love you to join us on all of our social media channels. You can find us on Instagram,
Twisted Britain.
You can find us on Twitter,
Twisted Britain.
You can find us on Facebook,
Twisted Britain.
You can also join our ever-growing discussion group on Facebook, which is a lovely...
Did you just say face group?
Did I say face group? You can always join our ever-growing face group on
Facebook.
Bookface. The blue one with the F on your phone. Click on that and then look for Twisted Britain Discussion Group and you'll find us. It's a lovely growing group of people and everybody's chats and it's a nice place. It's the place that Nadine and I will always interact as ourselves. If you have time in your wonderful days and you've enjoyed what you have listened to, please do leave us a review wherever you listen to all your podcasts.
Please. We love reading them. 5,
as Nadine has said in this episode, is a lovely number.
I do love I'll allow a 5.
You'll allow a 5. I'll allow a 5 as well, if it's to do with stars.
Yes.
If you find time to do that, that would be great. If you've liked what you've listened to, and you would like more of it, in fact, one more episode a month,
ooh-wee,
you could join our group of Patreons who are wonderful group of people who are helping to support the podcast for allow us to keep doing it.
Bought us a fancy sound desk.
Which makes us almost negate the fact that there's dominoes in the background.
Mm-hmm. Next month, we're going to look at investing in some kind of new microphones or mic stands or something else nice and fancy for us to record on and improve our quality and improve our podcast as much as we can as time goes on.
Our patrons will always be investing in trying to make Twisted Britain better.
That's all we want it for.
And with that, we'd like to give a shout out to our Patreons, our new ones this month.
Yeah, we've got 3 to do this month, so it's a very big thank you to Samantha B.
And a big thank you to Andrew O.
And a big thank you to Zoe R. Thank you so much for supporting us.
A quick apology to you guys. You will get your badges very soon. They're on order.
Yeah, we're just waiting for them to arrive. We have a few to go.
And we will send out your badges and your thank you cards as soon as we possibly can. And with that, I don't have anything else.
I don't think I've got anything else either.
Okay.
We're getting the lights turned off on us, so we best go.
Yeah, it's time for us to go, apparently. So thank you very much for listening this evening.
Thank you, love you, bye.
Thank you, love you, bye.
Greedy bitches.